Dabo has mentioned that he won't take in transfer players. He believes in his recruits and has sold them on a dream, and they have bought in. As a Clemson alum, yes, I am biased. However, fan or not, Dabo has a great point. How do you just take somebody from the outside and say to your recruit, sorry, man, I just never really believed in you? I get that it's a business decision sometimes. For example, UGA needed to make a push this year with all their talent, and they didn't have great options. However, they took Daniels from the portal. And what about Vandegrift? Why shouldn't the hometown Vandegrift field bill of trade? Lengthy comment, but I believe the transfer mania will have long-term impacts on recruiting when teams start to get a reputation for taking the flavor of the week transfer. Bud?
Well, I'm sure Clemson fans won't like this, but Dabo Swinney said a lot of stuff in the past that he either no longer says or now says the complete opposite of. So put me in the camp of I don't think that that this is going to last.
So you think the policy is going to change?
I do.
Really?
I do. Now, granted, they don't take junior college kids at Clemson, and that is actually a policy that they've had for a long time. I think that's because of the credits transferring over. And I do think that Dabo is sincere in talking about how he wants to make sure his guys are indoctrinated into his culture for their entire career. And what they do at Clemson, it works, man. Like their guys buy in. We've spoken on this show prior about what I've been told. They have a couple slots on their 85 for knuckleheads, and the rest of them better be filled out with kids who are pretty darn good kids to help balance all it out and keep those guys in line. And if you're one of the knuckleheads, you better be a damn good player when you get on campus too. Otherwise, that's not going to last. But man, transfers are becoming more a part of the game, especially at the quarterback position. I mean, this is really easy to say when you've hit on Trevor Lawrence, when you've hit on Deshaun Watson, and if you hit on DJ, okay, then maybe you can keep this stance. But I don't buy it long term. No, I do think Clemson will open up and will take transfers. What if they were able to get a tight end last year, right? Or a slot receiver? Do they beat LSU? Probably not, but it might be a closer game. I do think that you can do this. You can be selective with your transfers. It doesn't mean Clemson has to become transfer you, but I think this blanket statement of how they will not take transfers is going to change.
I don't know, man. I could see this sticking. Like I could see Dabo just on principle mess around and try out a Cole Stout again at quarterback and just be like, this is our guy. Like, we're not going shopping for mercenaries. This is our guy. He's been here. We're going to play with the guys we got. Like I could see Dabo doing that. And I don't think he's going to have to do that because I think that they'll continue to be able to recruit quarterbacks at such a high level. I think my thing with the transfer situation is like there two things, and I've made this point on several occasions. So people who listen to me in on the Cover 3 or in any time I've been on radio or whatever, like this is a standard talking point to mine. But I think the transfer market is a great thing for college football, not only because of because it disperses the talent to where everyone's on the field, but I think even more importantly, it incentivizes coaches to create an environment in which players want to be there for. It's going to create penalties or incentives for treating people with honesty, for building relationships off the field on a personal level. It's going to, and so I think like every school is going to have their fair share of transfers, but I think the schools that navigate these seas most effectively are going to be coaches that treat guys with tremendous like honesty and compassion. And that doesn't mean I'm not going to bring in a transfer. It means I'm going to tell you I'm going to bring in a transfer. It means I'm going to tell you, look, the reason that I'm bringing in this tight end is because I told you a year ago that we needed you to get stronger and add some weight, and you're still not where we need you to be, or we needed you to be more technical and precise in your footwork as a blocker, and that's still become really sloppy. And like this communication throughout the process. And look, he's not coming in to take your job, but he's coming in to compete with you. And everything is a competition and nothing is going to be handed to you. And I think if you instill this attitude to where a transfer isn't coming in and it's like pulling the rug out from you, but you're bringing in a transfer because it still works with your mantra within your program, it still works with the message you're delivering on a daily basis, then I think that it can still like guys don't have to feel betrayed. And what Dabo's done such a great job of is, look, it is a place where kids want to stay. Kids don't want to transfer out. It doesn't matter if they're not starting. Like, they understand they're going to be treated fairly. They like that. Clearly, that's a positive environment from a cultural standpoint. And so, like, I think that should be something he's commended for. And so, all that to say, like, I think that this is like all the hand wringing of just sort of like, all the things we're losing with this transfer market being an increased priority. Like, I'm good with it. Like, so we're not gonna have a bunch of assholes as coaches. We're gonna have guys. You can still be disciplined. You can still be a disciplinarian, but you have to be able to then have a relationship outside of the dog cussing as well.
That's been a pretty consistent theme on Barton and Bud. Like, if you are an established, hard-nosed kind of asshole coach, you probably can continue to get away with it. So like, if Dabo was that, which I don't think he is, he's certainly established and successful, but not the other part. Like, I think you could probably get away with that if you've been doing that for a long time and winning. But as things change, I think it does get harder to do so. And B, I don't think you can be a new coach who comes in and it's just a huge jerk to these guys on a consistent basis, because we're going to pass transfer eligibility next year, right? So kids, like, we're no longer going to need a waiver. You're just going to be immediately eligible on your first transfer. And so that's going to kind of remove the barrier to exit, if you will, for some of these transfers. Even though it seems like the NCAA hands out the waivers like candy, that's not always the case. And it does cause some hesitancy in kids who might want to transfer, right? And now, when this gets passed, the minute they're not happy, they're going to transfer out. Now, I think this will impact Clemson less, because you're exactly right. Their kids do seem very happy there. But I think it's foolish to assume that it won't impact Clemson at all, which I know you're not doing, but I think maybe some Clemson fans probably do. And if that happens, if Clemson starts to lose, a kid or two more per year to transfer, then they really might need to open up and take a transfer once in a while. As to the comment about Vandergriff, I think this is interesting. He said, shouldn't hometown Vandergriff feel betrayed? And I would just answer no. In fact, I think if you are committing to Georgia, Kirby Smart's probably used the word competition with you before. He's probably said, guess what? You got to come here to compete. It's my job to bring in players to try and beat you out. It's your job not to get beaten out by those players, period. Like, that's kind of how this works. So that's kind of my thought on that, man. I don't think Vandergriff's going to feel betrayed. I think he's going to take that information and consider it. But ultimately, like, if you're committing to Georgia, they're stacking 5 stars on 5 stars, man. Like, you know the deal.
If you feel betrayed by Kirby Smart going out and getting a 5-star quarterback in the transfer market, you hadn't been paying attention, buddy. Like, you committed without doing your research, because that dude is going to be hungry for talent wherever it is, and you're going to have to keep on competing every day. And I think, again, as long as that message is being delivered, like, it shouldn't be a problem. If you're saying, hey man, like, come to Georgia. If you come here, I promise I won't ever talk to a quarterback in the transfer portal or anywhere else until after your freshman year. Like, then great. But like, if the message is consistent, then Vandergriff should be all right.
So, okay, and we can actually reference something here for a guy who I think we both think is a very good coach and runs a program where his kids like him. Lincoln Riley. It was very well publicized that the conversation between Spencer Rattler and Riley was that they were not going to take a grad transfer. And then what happened? They took Jalen Hurts. And ultimately it came out that, well, okay, a grad transfer is different than just a transfer, and it's just a 1-year thing, so it really wasn't that big of a deal. Like, but even then, they still went ahead and took a transfer. I mean, if not for Hurts, does Rattler start for them last year?
I don't know.
I mean,
That's a good question.
transfers are not going away. Do you think that Dabo will really not take a transfer anytime in like the next 2 years? I mean, are you that confident?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
3 years?
I mean,
like, when will their first transfer happen? Will it happen under Dabo's watch at all?
It would need to take. I don't think it's going to. Well, we'll see. Like it'll be unless this transfer monsoon, this like wave that's coming with the waiving the one time, or allowing a one-time transfer for pretty much everybody. Like maybe that creates a normalcy to it to where Dabo just acknowledges, okay, I have to engage in this. But I could absolutely envision a scenario in which Dabo says, y'all keep on chasing all these one-hit wonders. We're building it from the bottom up here. We're not renovating. We're building from the ground up, and like whatever kind of hokey sort of phrase he's got for it, you know, like, and he's just gonna roll with it. And like, and I think that like Jeff Scott at USF, like I'm sure he brings most of Dabo's. I think he maybe already said like he plans on, bringing in transfers, but let's just say Dabo is starting anew at a new program, like just wants a fresh start, just for hypothetical purposes, argument's sake. I think you might feel like he just has to. But at Clemson, given that he is, like, given where they sit, the perch they sit on the food chain, I don't think he has to compromise that stuff if he really doesn't want to. Like, yes, they might be better off from a just competition standpoint if he did, but I don't think he has to. I think he can keep Clemson near the top of the food chain without taking transfers.